Welcome to Grasp Confidence Podcast, where we go beneath the surface into faith, healing, identity, and calling. I'm your host, Tara LaFon Gooch, award-winning keynote speaker, 3-time best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and coach. This is not surface-level self-help. This is freedom. Let's dive in. My next guest was once at the center of the biggest corporate espionage cases in FBI history, a high-powered executive whose life publicly fell apart. But God had a different ending in mind. Today, he is a faith leader, a PhD biochemist, and vice president at Coca-Cola Consolidated, spending the last 20 years proving that God doesn't waste a single chapter of your story. Welcome to Grasp Confidence Podcast, Mark Whitacre.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we were talking offline, and I said, you know what would be great if we opened up with a prayer message today for the audience, for the listeners. Would you like to take the lead on that, Mark?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Father, just thank you for this wonderful opportunity to serve you, Father, and be your ambassador here on earth until we join you in heaven, Father. We just want to be effective witnesses for you, to help ones grow in their faith that already know you, and to plant seeds for ones who don't yet know you. And I just pray for our time today, Father. You speak both through Tara and I, that you speak through us, and it'll be your words and not our words, Father. You're going to know the hearts of every single listener. And we just pray you speak through us for them to hear your words, Father. Again, what a blessing it is to serve you. I pray that we honor you in all that we say and all that we do. And I pray we become less and you become more. Pray this in Jesus' strong name. Amen.
Amen. What a prayer. What a story. I really want to highlight your story, because when people hear, whoa, biggest corporate espionage cases, price fixing scandal, what does this even mean, Mark? And I want to back up a little bit, because I want to tell the audience how we actually met. So I met you. You were a keynote speaker at the C-Suite for Christ Spring Savior Summit. I was also a speaker. I heard your story and I was hooked. And I ran up to you, right, like a fangirl. And I said, you've got to come on the podcast.
Here we are, a couple weeks later.
Here we are. It was such a good story. And oh my gosh, I was blown away. Your rawness, your realness. Not many people want to put it out there of the mistakes that they've made in their lives. And I'm so grateful for your story and the impact you're currently creating. But let's talk about what this means, corporate espionage and price fixing. What is this all about? So could you kindly take us back a little bit and tell us a little bit of that background of that incident?
Yeah, absolutely. For one, it was long ago. It was 35 years ago, so it's been a long time.
Oh,
My kids are actually all older than I was even at that time. Our youngest was 4, and I was 32, and now he's 40. So long
wow.
ago, that's how long ago it was. But it was one of the biggest frauds in white-collar history. It was happening about the same time that Enron and WorldCom, 2 other huge
Yep.
Fortune 500 scandals. And at 32, I worked for a company, a $70 billion company. We were number 56 on the Fortune 500, the 56th largest publicly traded company in the world.
Wow.
We had a 75-year-old CEO, a 71-year-old COO, a 68-year-old vice chair, and I was ranked number 4 executive out of 32,000 employees, and I was 32. When they were
Amazing.
75, 71, and 68, I was being mentored by them. Obviously, they were looking at retirement the next few years, so I was being groomed and mentored. Good example for your listeners. Show me your mentor, I show your future.
That's right.
I was following the wrong people there,
That's
for
right.
sure. And I tell you, I was hooked. I got my PhD in biochemistry from Cornell, the Ivy League. My mom didn't want me to go to the Ivy League. She wanted me to go to a Christian school. I was the only child out of 4 to go to college at all. And she said, I hope I recognize you when you get out. And she didn't recognize me. Grew up in a Christian home. All I heard in 8 years of college was, if you believe in God, You can't be a scientist. Oh,
Mhm.
they and never met one Christian PhD scientist in college in 8 years, not one. So I told all my friends at Cornell that my parents are Christians because they didn't go to college and they don't know better. They're just not smart enough. So
Mm.
that's what I
Yep.
thought. I graduated an atheist, even though I grew up in a gospel where I learned went to church every Sunday. My parents forced me
Mhm.
to read the Bible, but it was going
Mhm.
out one ear and going in one ear and out the other. And then I went 8 years of college. It brought me so far away from faith. And my wife, I met her and she was 7th grade and I was in 8th grade. And the
Mhm.
guitar's on the wall. I met my wife playing a guitar in the 8th grade band, in the 8th grade school band. So I was playing the guitar back then in 8th grade. She was 13, I was 14, went to our proms together in high school. And she worked for Carl Sagan. So when I got my PhD in biochemistry, she was in the next building in astrophysics working for Carl Sagan as an administrative assistant. She had a degree in education and she was working there to have a job to help us. We just got married, start my PhD, and I was full scholarship, 8 years, full scholarship. My parents didn't have to pay a dime for any of my college. And Carl Sagan has a TV show on PBS 3 days a week during the 70s and 80s. And all he talked about, there is no God, probably the most known atheist. So all she heard was there is no God. And these are really smart people up for Nobel Prizes. And we're thinking, who are we going to believe? These professors or our parents who never went to college, hers and mine? So we both left there, atheists. And then her mom got real sick when my wife was 30. I graduated Cornell at 25. And when her mom was 52 and Ginger was only 30, her mom got really sick and was in the hospital 10 months. And Ginger became a Christian. A nurse led Ginger Ginger was several hours a day in the hospital and she became a Christian. I remember when Ginger came home, told me she gave her life to Jesus and she's going to start a church and start joining a women's group. I said, Ginger, I'm a PhD scientist from an Ivy League university. That's the craziest thing I ever heard. I said, you work for Carl Sagan, one of the most renowned
Wow.
astrophysicists in the world.
Yeah.
And she said, Mark, you're wrong. Carl Sagan's wrong. I saw miracles happen. God exists. Jesus is the Son of God. And just like your parents, Mark, I'm praying for you. And she prayed for me for 10 years, and my parents prayed for me their whole life. My mom didn't die till 91, a year and a half ago. My mom at 91, so she got to see the transform me, but the out of college me, she couldn't recognize me. So by the time I'm 30, you're going to focus on something. So if you don't have God in your life, my God became success, materialism. I'm divisional president and corporate vice president of the 56th largest company in the world at age 32. Base salary, this is 1989. Base salary, stock options, total compensation was about 3 million a year for 8 years. I had my own jet. The 7 top executives each got their own jets. I had my own Falcon 50 for 8 years. We made $3 million a year in
Mhm.
1989. That's equivalent to 10 million a year today.
Mhm.
And I was hooked. It was like crack.
Yeah. Sounds like it, right?
And I bought the CEO's, him being our CEO, 40 years there, CEO, $70 billion company, ADM, Archer Daniels Midland. And he, number 38, I think, on the Fortune 500 today, even larger today than even back then. We were number 56. He wanted to sell his house being much older. So he asked me to look at his home. And I said, yeah, I'm my first month in that new position and 7 years out of college, and he's a billionaire. He owned 5% of a $70 billion company, and I just couldn't imagine buying that home. I said, "Tell me about it." He said, 13,000 square feet, 8-car garage, horse riding stables with an inside arena for your kids to ride in the wintertime in Decatur, Illinois, in an inside arena with living quarters in the horse barn, a living quarters for security guards 'cause he had security guards, he had
Mhm.
drivers and all that.
Mhm.
And I told him when he told me to describe that home, I said, I couldn't afford that home." He said, "Nonsense. I'll give you a startup bonus today and you'll buy it this week." And I bought his house that week and he was trying to sell it for 3 years. I had a mansion that Justin Bieber would live in. Basically, I was Justin Bieber before Justin Bieber.
I love that.
Blonde hair blowing in the wind,
Corporate Justin Bieber.
corporate jet, and making 3 million a year, and I filled that 8-car garage within 6 months, a Ferrari,
Oh,
the
man.
two Mercedes.
Ferraris, huh?
And my wife's a Christian then for a few years. She's driving a
Mhm,
10-year-old
mhm.
Jeep. And I said, "Ginger, I bought her a red Ferrari last month just with 1 month's bonus. No loan, no bank loan,
Wow.
nothing. Just 1 month bonus, bought her a Ferrari." I said, "Let me buy you a yellow Ferrari this month." And she said, "That would be my worst nightmare." She said, "I want to be a good steward for God." I said,
Yeah.
"Your Jeep's 10 years old, Ginger." She said, "I got at least 5 more good years on it. I want to be a good steward." And so I
Mhm.
went out and bought a yellow one. I just and I tell all my friends at ADM, I said, "My wife, I tried to buy her Ferrari, and she said she wants to be a good steward." It was like hearing Latin. We didn't even know what it meant to be a
Yeah.
steward for God. So we were on 2 different tracks during that time. Thank God our 3 kids take after her and not me. So
Wow. So
that's the track I was on. I was
that's the
addicted.
track.
Show me your mentor, I show you your future. I would
Mm,
them follow them off a cliff, uh, to
mhm.
keep moving up that because I saw I'm eventually gonna be them. I'm number 4. I'm
Yep.
reporting to the COO, so eventually they already told me that I was gonna replace him, and I'm thinking a few years after that, I'll be CEO. So, okay,
Right.
eventually, I'm gonna be number 1 of the 56 largest company in America.
Wow. So
70
you had it all.
revenue. Yes.
It's
Everything the
everything
world
that
had to offer.
people want,
That was my God,
right?
was materialism, success,
Mhm.
here's my title,
Mhm.
here's the home I live in, here's the jet I have. That was my whole identity, and my wife would tell me, she said, Ginger would say, "Mark, this is all gonna be rust. These cars are gonna be rust 30 years from now." Now it's been 35 years, and they probably are rust, but then I just didn't see it. They were my everything. I was addicted
You were addicted.
to the
It's
work.
so easy to get addicted, right? It's so easy to get addicted to that instant gratification, that
Yes.
success, and, this is what people want, right? They think they want, I should say. They think they want those mansions, those cars, but what I know about money is that it's just never enough. You get that Ferrari and then you want a yellow one or a
And
pink one
and
or a
literally
purple
and
one.
literally a month later, that's exactly what happened. When I had those
Mhm.
8 cars in the garage, I'm thinking a month later, "Boy, I gotta extend that to 10-car garage. I gotta expand." I could have got the level of Bill Gates. I'm telling you with
Yeah.
100% certainty, I could have got the level of Bill Gates, and it would have never been enough. It was not
Mm.
filling that void, and here my wife driving this 10-year-old Jeep around, and it was plenty.
Are you ready to do the deep work? Whether you're looking for a speaker for your next event, private one on one coaching, or you're ready to build your brand as a thought leader, I would love to work with you. Visit terralafangooch.com to book me to speak or inquire about coaching. And to build your thought leadership brand, visit bestbranding.solutions. Let's get to work. What an incredible start. Okay, so PhD biochemistry, your wife's working for Carl Sagan, you went to Cornell, Ivy League institution, you're working as an executive at a huge company making millions of dollars. You had it all on the surface, and then it kind of started peeling back. So,
Yeah, let
this
me tell
is
you a
the
little bit about that.
really
I'm a couple years with
yeah,
the company now, a couple years. So now
yeah.
I'm 34, not
Yep.
32. My wife a year younger. We met in junior high. She's telling she a couple years later, the CEO came back to my office, said, "Mark, he's 77 now." Remember, he's 75 when I started that role. And he
Yep.
said, "We got to start preparing some session. We're getting a lot of pressure for
Yep.
succession planning. We're not going to change position now, but we're going to start making announcements." They announced in Fortune magazine that I was the next going to be the next COO, be a mentor to me. Number 2, front page Fortune magazine. I framed it everywhere. My wife said I had it everywhere but the garage. Front page Fortune magazine. And then I'm thinking, they're already announcing in a couple of years I'm mentored to be the next COO. They announced someone 10 years older than me who was going to be CEO because the CEO, both of them were older, the CEO and COO.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm thinking 5 or 10 years, I got that role too. I'll be
Yeah.
COO and then CEO of the 56 largest company in America. And then they said, Mark, but we're going to announce it. but we got to share some things with you we haven't shared with you. And I said, I've been 2 years divisional president, corporate vice president of the company. I've seen it all. And they said, no, there's some things we haven't shared with you. And it was about working with our competitors,
Working with
antitrust
our
laws, collusion,
Ooh,
cartels.
yep.
He didn't call it that, but he's describing that. And
Uh-huh.
price fixing and getting together our
Mhm.
competitors and fixing prices, the largest food additive company in the world, fixing the prices of all your listeners' foods. We're in Kellogg's, Pillsbury, Kraft, beverages,
Everything.
French teas, orange juice. You can't buy a food or beverage that we're not an ingredient in.
That's
In the
right.
grocery store, largest food additive company in the world, ADM, Archer Daniels Midland. And I said, that's not legal. And he said, Mark, everybody does it. We've been doing it for 12 years. When you're in the commodity business, this is the way business is done, and everybody does it. And I'm thinking, I'm not even 10 years out of college yet. And he's been 40 years as CEO. He knows a lot more than me. This must be
Yeah,
the real world here.
that's right.
So he said, if I'm going to move up, I have to do, I was either going to have to quit or do it. And I sure wasn't going to give up to go from a $3 million job to eventually to a $10 million a year job being the next COO. And they just announced that I'd be the COO. So I said, okay, if everybody does it, I'm in. 7 months later, my Christian wife, Ginger, says, Mark, I've known you since junior high. Something's going on you're not sharing with me. And she said, you're on the phone all these hours in the evening. I said, Ginger, I'm on the phone in the evening. She said, you've been there 2 years. Something's changed these last 7 months. And I said, I'm on the phone in the evenings because our competitors, a lot of them are in Japan, Singapore, South Korea.
Yep.
They're 12 hours ahead of us. 8 o'clock at night is 8 o'clock in the morning their time. She said, why would you be talking to them? They're your competitors. And I said, our company works with them. It's just the way business is done. They've been doing it for 12 years. And for me to move up, I have to do this. And then she asked the question no one ever wants to be asked. She said, Mark, is it legal?
Oops.
Not legal, but I used the line my CEO gave me.
Mhm.
Everybody does it. They've been doing it 12 years. You can't be in the commodity business without doing this. It's okay, Ginger. Everybody does. He's been 40 years. See, he's like the Elon Musk back then, high profile,
Yeah,
news a lot. 35
yeah.
years ago, he would have been like Elon Musk. And I said, this is the way business is done. And she said, Mark, it's illegal. It's a fraud. She said, how much the company earn? I said, we're 70 billion in revenue, 4 billion in profit, maybe 1 billion estimated from the price fixing. So about 25%. You're stealing $1 billion a year from your own customers. And I said, I don't know if I call it stealing. She said, Mark, it's fraud. It's stealing. She said, my grandma's on $800 a month, Social Security. Her biggest bill is grocery bill. She's paying
Mm.
higher for groceries because when Kellogg's and Pillsbury and all these food companies pay higher for the ingredients, they pass to the consumer. They have their profit margin built in, so the consumer pays for that. When you have higher price for your inputs, your ingredients, then it's a higher price for the consumer. You're stealing from the consumers. I said, well, if I'd see it like that. She said, Mark, it's black and white. It's theft. It's fraud. I'm going to have to pray about this. We talk about it later. When she told me she was going to pray about it, I knew I was in trouble. I knew then I was in trouble.
And you were still very much an atheist at this point,
Yes, very much. Cornell, I mean,
but you knew you were in trouble.
was you can't be a 8 years, all I heard, never met one Christian professor in 8 years, especially in the sciences.
Yep, yep,
Yeah, so she
wow.
prayed about it and she came back and she said, Mark, I prayed about this. A couple hours later, it's November 5th, 1992. My life is separated between November 5th, pre 1992, and after November 5th, because that was the change that changed my entire life starting that day. Now, eventually for good, but it was a train wreck to get there. But my
Oh,
life
yeah.
changed. She came back and she said, Mark, you're going to have to turn yourself in. You're involved 7 months in something that's been going on for 12 years. What a perfect time to stop this fraud. And she said, if you don't turn yourself in, I'm turning you in, but it's going to happen today.
Wow, what a brave woman. I need to have Ginger on the show
Yes, you
next.
do.
Uh,
You
interviewing the
do.
bravest woman of all time, right?
And we had an
So is
argument we've not had in 47 years of marriage now, as of this month. We had an argument we've never had in her life. But she was right, and I knew she was right. It was a big fraud. And our price was being driven up by stealing, by driving the profits
Yep.
up through the price fixing. and a lot of our income was stock options, so we were benefiting this
Yeah.
tremendously from it, millions from it. They were becoming billionaires from it. Eventually, I probably would have become a billionaire on that track, and I knew it was wrong, but it was just hard at that point when that's your everything, when that is your God, it's hard it's hard to say, "I'm gonna risk this." And Ginger, it meant nothing to risk. The house meant nothing to her. The cars meant nothing to her. She's not even driving any of those cars. The plane meant zero to her. None of
Yeah.
that materialism meant because I told Ginger, "You're gonna lose it all." She said, "Mark, it means nothing to me. Nothing."
That is what happens when we create an idol out of something,
Yes.
right? And this is why idol worship is so dangerous. And idol worship can be anything. It doesn't have to be a gold statue. I think that's what people think it is, but it can be anything. It could be money, it could be a plane, it could be whatever.
Yeah,
Keep
and me, it was all those things, the plane,
Yeah,
or it was all the bells and whistles that came with that high profile job.
a title. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And the title that was coming, being mentored to be the next COO, I was hooked to that. I would almost stepped on my own grandma to
Yep.
continue to become the CEO of a company that size. So
Wow.
I was hooked.
So Ginger said, Mark, you got to turn yourself in.
Yes.
Those were probably some of the scariest words you've ever heard in your life, and you've got it made in the shade, and everything's working, and you don't want this to happen. So what happened next?
We being the largest company in Decatur, Illinois is about 80,000 about 80,000 residents, it, about 80,000 population. 30,000 worked at ADM. So
Wow.
it's
That's
a company town by far, huge company.
Yeah.
So the FBI office worked for us, and she knew the FBI, and I knew the FBI. They worked for us, for our company, helping us on small things. And here we had this big fraud. They'd help us on $100,000 grain theft or
Oh my
something. And
gosh.
here we got $1 billion theft
Yeah.
right under their nose. Keep your enemies close, right?
Yeah.
And she said, "You've got to tell them they're working with us, helping us." And now I'm telling the very people the last couple of years that are assisting our company because we're the only company in town. And now I'm telling them this huge fraud. And she made sure she was right there. She did. She was right there. And I tried to skirt the issue. Now, what are we here for? And I said, "You got all these drug dealers in Decatur, Illinois. You got so much work to do." And they said, "Well, that's really local law enforcement. I'm trying to get them looking elsewhere." And Ginger would say, "We're here to talk about a fraud." He said, "What kind of fraud?" And I said, "What about all these drug dealers in Decatur and all this crime in Decatur?"
Yeah, get those guys, right?
Yeah, yeah, don't look at me. What about the guy
Don't look
stealing
at me.
pizzas down the
I love
and and she said a massive fraud. And one time she said $1 billion fraud. And he said, $1 million fraud. She said, "No, $1 billion fraud."
Wow.
And then
Which
I
was
said,
unheard
"How
of back
long's that
then.
been going on?" And I said, "What about all this crime in Decatur? What about these drug dealers?" And Ginger said it's been going on for 12 years. My husband just told me today the whole story. It's been going on for 12 years. So he got the truth out of Ginger quickly.
Yep.
And we were about 4 hours, him taking notes. And we had the choice. I either be arrested or start wearing a wire for them the next day to go after the kingpins because I'm 7 months engaged.
Yeah.
And I'm just learning, watching and observing. I'm not even leading it yet. And they
No.
wanted to go after the kingpins that were mentoring me. Again, show me your mentor, I show your future. I was following the wrong people.
Mm.
I was following the wrong people.
Wow.
So I started wearing a wire. I didn't want to get arrested that day. And Tara, that's the difference between a whistleblower and an informant. A whistleblower is someone that's willing to sacrifice everything to do the right thing. And that's Ginger. And an
Mm.
informant is someone who has a choice to either be arrested or wear a wire. And that was me. And a huge difference
Wow.
between the two. Huge difference.
So you wore a wire for how long,
3
Mark?
years, 3 hours, 10 years,
3
10 hours
years.
a day. They wired me up at 6 every morning, shaved my chest, put microphones on my chest, tape recorder. They didn't have the equipment back then. This would have been
Mhm.
1992, so you're talking 34 years ago. They wouldn't have the equipment back then they have today. So they shaved my chest, wired me up 6 every morning, Monday through Friday for 3 years. 3 years.
Incredible. And at any point in time, anybody could have suspected, right? And I'm sure you were living on the edge. I'm sure anxiety was high. I'm sure you were questioning all of your life's decisions. And I'm sure you didn't want to go to work, but you had to, and you had to be wired up. And that was really super risky because when multiple millions or especially billions of dollars are involved, that's when people go missing. That's
Yes,
when
and they
you're
have
on
the
the news for a
finances to do
totally
that.
different story.
And there's a
Yeah.
documentary on my website on www.markwhitacre.com, and on this documentary, right on the homepage, Investigation Discovery by
Mhm.
Discovery Channel, and in that documentary, that's the 3 real FBI agents, Ginger and I, the 3 real FBI agents, all the people really engaged with the case, so a very accurate portrayal of the story, and they share in that documentary, the agents, they said they told me a couple times a week, if they catch him, they're gonna kill him.
Yeah, for
And you
sure.
hear that a couple times a week. I lost 60 pounds, Tara. People at work thought I had cancer. That's showing up on all the tapes. Mark, you
Yeah.
a doctor. I was falling apart. A neighbor, which is also in that documentary, a neighbor videoed me at 3 in the morning blowing leaves off with a suit and tie on, blowing leaves off with a gas leaf blower off the driveway during a thunderstorm. 3 in the morning. I was losing it. Now, the neighbor had no idea what was going on, but he knew something was weird. I was
Wow.
losing it. And that's on the documentary. Me blowing 3 in the morning during a thunderstorm, leaves all, I was falling apart. Most stressful years of my life by far.
I can't even imagine. Wow. So going through all of this and then 3 years go by, what happens on the other side of this? Do they get arrested? What happens with the FBI? What happened with the rest of your story, Mark?
Almost 31 people, 30, not almost, but 31 people end up going to prison in a 7-week
31.
trial from 4 from ADM and then all the other companies, because collusion is price fixing with your competitors.
That's
So
right.
several other companies, 31 people total. I went to prison. I got a 6-month deal for all my cooperation, plea deal. My wife and I are in front of our judge or lawyer at the time, who's now a judge, that lawyer, and 6 months, a Martha Stewart sentence, white collar, nothing like what the others were going to go to, and not near as long. And I said, I don't know if I go to prison 6 months. The lawyer said, Mark, deal of a lifetime. You're involved with one of the biggest fraud in history for 7 months. It's a huge deal. Take it. Ginger looked at me. She said, Mark, I beg you to sign it. Let's put it behind us. You go in at 30, because now I'm 38 by the time I wire 3 years. So I'm 38. You go in at 38 and you come out at 38, she said. And I looked at Ginger and said, Ginger, it's all your fault. And I'm in this mess. I ripped up the plea agreement, threw it away, fired the lawyer on the spot. This is not godly decisions. These are impulse, fleshly
That's right.
decisions.
Of course.
Fired the lawyer on the spot, went to court for 3 years in the courts and got 8.5 years instead there's no parole. So I got a 10-year sentence. You get 15% off good behavior, which is 8.5. There's no parole in the federal system. That's state crime, not federal. I had to
Wow.
do 8.5 years on a 10-year, and I would have had 6 months. And that's after going to court 3 years. I would have been out 3 years earlier.
Wow.
My own
So
worst
many lessons.
every step of the way. My own worst.
So many lessons. Wow. So went to prison. Not
Yes.
easy. All right. So after 3 years of complete anxiety, breakdowns mentally, then it was prison time.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something in your keynote speech that I'm going to share with the audience. You're glad that you didn't get 6 months. And that may be very counterintuitive to a lot of people because a lot of people are hearing this, Mark, and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, I wish Mark would have gotten that 6 months. It would have been fine. He would have been 38 and his life would have gone on." But you are actually glad that didn't happen. Can
Well,
you
I
tell us
did
a
at
little
the
bit about that?
time. At that
Well,
time,
not
I
at the
attempted
time,
suicide.
right? Retrospect, right?
Yeah, at the time, I attempted suicide before I went to prison. Before prison, I was bottomed out. I was the
Yeah,
end of
for
myself.
sure.
My
Yep.
second week in prison, a man named Chuck Colson showed up. Chuck Colson was the White House counsel under President Nixon in the 70s, 20 years earlier. He's
Yep.
showing up with me in 1998, but in 20 years earlier, he was White House counsel under Nixon, went to prison for the Watergate scandal, along with the Attorney General, the director of the FBI,
Mhm.
12 of Nixon's top lieutenants went to
Mhm.
prison. Nixon himself was going to prison, but got pardoned by President Ford. But the others went to prison. Chuck Colson became a Christian and started the largest prison ministry in the world called Prison Fellowship in the 70s. In 1998, he read about me in the Washington Post. He went to Brown University, another Ivy League, where they told me
Mhm.
there was no God.
Yep.
He showed up my prison, said, "Mark, second week in prison, I'm depressed, attempted suicide before I went in." And he said, "Mark, I see you went to Cornell. They talk about God at Cornell." I said, "Oh, yeah, that God doesn't exist. That's all I heard." And he said, "That's what he was told at Brown." He said, "Mark, do you think there's a PhD scientist that believes in God?" And I said, "I don't think there is." And he showed me article after article, book after a couple of them even that meaty, and even a memoir by Sir Isaac Newton that wrote as much about Jesus as he did about science.
That's right.
And he's article after article, book after book, some of the best scientists in the world that believe in God. And I became a Christian being disciple. I already knew the gospel
Yep.
from my parents, but he was the
Mhm.
part that what was my hurdle was those 8 years of college. And he broke down those 8 years of college that the secular universities hid it. They don't share that these all are Christian. Even Francis Collins, who discovered the human genome, is a Christian,
Yep.
and they don't share any of that. Even Albert Einstein, who
Mhm.
believed in God but didn't believe he wasn't a follower of Jesus, but he believed in God. He said only God could create the universe and only God could create man, and evolution was impossible. None of that was shared during my 8 years of education. So I became a Christian. I remember my wife visiting me. I became a Christian on June 4th, 1998, 28 years ago. My wife came with my 3 children for Father's Day about a week or so after that, and I was in tears. All she heard me was blame her for 3 years undercover and blame her for 3 years when I was in court. And now I said, "Ginger, I got no one to blame but myself.
Mm.
No one put a gun to my head and said I should have walked away and not got involved with any of that. This
Mm.
big mistake." And I said, "But also I know I've seen the scientific evidence. The evidence is overwhelming. God exists and Jesus is the Son of God." She was in tears. She said, "I gotta go call your mom."
Oh, wow.
Because my mom was praying for me her whole life.
Her whole life.
Was afraid, she said, "I won't recognize you when you come home from an Ivy League university." And
Mm.
she went and called my mom. My mom came there to meet. She had a 12-hour drive. My mom was there the next day. And my mom
Mm.
just died a year and a half ago in 91. She got to see the transform me, our marriage reconciled. I got close to my children. It was life changing. I hope guys get there. I went from 3 million a year to $20 a month for 8 years. 3 million for 8 years, $20 a month for 8 years. And they became the most productive years of my life because the first time I ever experienced helping someone else. Instead of my
Mm.
guys get their GEDs,
Mhm.
Spanish guys read English and speak better English, help some guys get 2 years and 4-year degrees through correspondence. It changed my life. And then I spent on legal fees and fines. Ginger had less than a year to live with our 3 kids' finances because I spent it all. Sold the house and cars to pay attorneys.
Wow.
The companies that were the victims, including Coca-Cola, who I'm a vice president and officer of, helped those companies won $3 billion back from ADM in class action suit. Coca-Cola system alone, $400 million for price fixing
Wow.
or sweetener. They gave Ginger a whistleblower reward and financed her and my kids for 8 years for doing the right thing and exposing something that was going on for 12 years. And now I work for the
And
company.
now you work for him.
I've been out over 20 years, and I work for the company that was my biggest victim.
Wow.
Only God. Only
Only God. Only
I
God
lead the
could do
ministry
that.
arm we'll get into in a minute, but I lead the ministry arm, which is so exciting and so
Yeah.
different. I would have never dreamed of that. 30
Amazing. Let's talk about that because you're involved. You're not just, the VP at Coca-Cola Consolidated, but you're involved with something even deeper on that level. called the T factor. What
Yeah.
is that, Mark? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, I'm Vice President of Culture and Care Department, which includes our
Mhm,
transformation factor, which T factor. We have a purpose statement publicly traded on the NASDAQ. We're not Coca-Cola Company, Atlanta. We're
mhm,
Coca-Cola Consolidated, the bottling
mhm,
company, and
mhm.
headquartered in Charlotte. And we're the largest, could be, we think are maybe the largest faith-based publicly traded company, maybe in the world. We don't know of any other publicly traded company that would even say they're faith-based or faith-friendly. And
That's
we have
right.
a purpose statement. Hear this on the NASDAQ, official purpose statement to honor God in all we do by serving others, pursuing excellence, and growing profitably. Honor God in all we do by serving others. We have 104 plant sites and over 17,000 employees. We have a chaplain in every site.
A
Chaplain
chaplain
for
and
every 200 employees for 17,000 plus employees. 154 prayer groups, 16 that I get to lead personally. Bible studies. We have a discipleship program, a 1 year program. We get all these recommits to salvations. We get a 1 year program where they memorize scripture, they read the Bible, build their quiet time. 1 year discipleship program. I lead several of those groups. It's like a ministry with inside a company, and the results that has on a company are not measurable. The retention rates, the employee engagement,
yeah,
if everyone saw the impact it has on your teammates, every company would be a faith-friendly or a faith-based company. Every company. God
amazing.
blesses your business when you honor God. It's transformed our business. And then T Factor is simply where we share that with other Christian leaders to try to get them to be more bold and bring faith into their companies.
I love that. God is my CEO. I'm the vehicle, right? God is the CEO here. That is such a powerful, measurable thing because often when we think about faith, it seems etherical. What is it? I can't touch it. I can't see it, but you're living proof that it's really a tangible thing in our lives that we can measure it. And the fact that you've brought this into Coca-Cola Consolidated and that it has had a measurable difference, not just in your life, but in the lives of others and the company itself, because you guys have high retention rates, your culture is very strong, it's a very friendly culture. And you also mentioned something as well that if there's a natural disaster that impacts an area, that
Yeah.
your company comes in and helps the workers who were impacted, right?
We have a rapid response team like Samaritan's
Rapid
Purse
response
because
team.
we're at 104 sites that have hurricanes and
That's right.
tornadoes and fires and floods.
Yeah.
They go out and repair these homes, get our employees back in their home. We have a teammate support fund that helps cover finances when they've got maybe someone, a sick child or a sick spouse. And during COVID, almost 700 of our employees' spouses the spouse of our employees lost their job, and we helped cover their finances for almost 700 employees to meet those needs. Teammate Support Fund, which is a benevolence fund, rapid response team, take care of physical needs, emotional needs, spiritual needs. It's the church, Tara. It's the church. And we hire about 100 to 150 employees a month just to replace a lot of our retirees and for our new growth too. And we pray that most of them are not believers because we see our purpose to introduce them to God. And that's
Mm.
monthly number of employees.
Amazing.
It's a ministry, it's an outreach with inside an organization, and God so blesses our business for it.
That is incredible. And I love the fact I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. A ministry doesn't have to look like you going to another country and going to a village and helping people. It can, absolutely. I think that's, the typical how we think of it. But a ministry can be a podcast. A ministry can be at work and the way you do business. It can be your purpose and how you treat others and serve them. A ministry can be how you post on social media, how you show up. It's your encouragement to others and sharing the gospel. Ministry can look different depending on who you are in the vehicle, but the outcome is the same. It's all about delivering that message of the gospel to an open heart and seeing a life transformed because of it, isn't it?
Ministry, I tell you, ministry is me walking out this door and to go across the hall.
Yeah.
Administratively going into our South Bend, Indiana plant site or Little Rock, Arkansas, you don't have
Mhm.
to go very far. Your neighbors, and an Uber driver, someone in the grocery
Yep.
store, you don't have to look very far for someone you can encourage and plant seeds about God. It's all
Mhm.
around us at all the time, all around us. And what a blessing it is to serve God that way. And I look back and show me your mentor, I show you the future. I followed the biggest price fixers in US history, and I went to prison with them. And
Yeah.
then Chuck Colson became a mentor and changed my life. God used him to change my life forever. Show me your mentor, I show your future. And I had that emptiness that even a Ferrari would fill for maybe a month and a corporate jet. And then all of a sudden I'm $20 a month and that void was filled. I became a free man in prison.
Wow.
A free man in
Oh
prison
my
because that
god.
void was filled. That void was filled. Jesus was the void that no car, mansion, jet, none of that was going to fill. God filled that void, and I've been out over 20 years. I've been involved in this faith at work movement for 20 years, and there's nothing I can't wait to get up and see what God in store. And I see employees come and say, "Thank God it's Monday," instead of "Thank God it's Friday," because they're going from their family at home to their family at work. People that care for them and love on them.
Wow. This is such a beautiful message, such a redemptive story. I mean, I can't think of 2 greater pendulums, right? The one side of just having it all, worldly success, and to the other side of being in prison but finding fulfillment in Christ. And there's something about that because we all have, and it's nothing to be ashamed about to admit this. We all have a God-sized hole, and only Christ can fill it. That's it. I've been there too, Mark, where not to your level of success. I don't think a lot of people have, but to the level where I keep thinking if I just buy one more thing, I'll be happy. Just one more thing, just one more trip. And then all of a sudden you're escaping your life.
Yes.
And nothing fulfills it unless God fills that hole. That's it. No amount of material possessions, no amount of money, no other person either. Some people think, "Oh, if I just find my soulmate, my husband, my wife, my boyfriend, girlfriend, I'll be happy." You're not. You have to fill that hole that's only a God-sized hole, right?
I filled it at $20 a month. That $3 million a year did not fill.
That's right.
My wife says, "Thank God I didn't." She said, "Murder was on the table. Murder was out, and a divorce wasn't." When I took that 6-month plea agreement and threw away, and now she says, "Thank God I didn't sign it because I wouldn't have listened to Chuck Colson with a 6-month plea agreement."
That's amazing.
I
Wow.
had to be broken, had to be the end of myself at that time.
And that's the Holy Spirit working through your wife. And that wouldn't have been possible if she wasn't aligned. If she was it did not have that relationship with Christ. And this is how it works. When the deeper your relationship with Christ, the more aligned you are, the more discernment you have. And she could feel something off, right? And she knew to speak up, and she especially knew if it was wrong and to turn you in. And what a brave woman that was, and
He's
has
the hero.
really
God used her. I look
yeah.
at God used her and Chuck Colson as the heroes of this story. And people say, "Mark, you've really turned your life around." No, my life was ashes. I took my life ashes. It was a train wreck. God took my life from ashes to beauty. My life was a train wreck. And God gave me purpose in my life. I found my true purpose. And it's been the best almost 3 decades of my life. And like I said, I wake up every morning, God, what's next for today?
I love that. That is so powerful. Any last words of wisdom for people listening to this that maybe they're tired of chasing? They've gotten the worldly success, they've gotten the titles, they've started their business, they've gotten the Porsche, and it's just not enough. What would you say to that person?
I would tell them that I've seen it both. I've seen selfish leadership and I've seen servant leadership. And I've saw the life the way the world defines success, which is titles and how much money you make, and the life of significance, leaving the world a better place when you leave it than when you came.
Mhm.
And serving others nothing more rewarding. I was more satisfied at $20 a month in prison helping guys get their GEDs and 2-year degrees and 4-year degrees through correspondence than I was $3 million a year in one of the biggest companies in the world. That was an empty life. My life was fulfilled when I saw how rewarding it was to help someone else because I never experienced it. I never experienced servant leadership until I went to prison. And that's when I would tell them, go for a life of significance. Leave the world a better place when you leave it than when you came.
Mm.
Have positive influencers and positive mentors in your life. Show me your mentor, I show you your future. Have others, and then also mentor others, younger people, to also be the mentors that God designed you to be as a mentor. I think we all need mentors and we all need mentees. Some that are pouring into us and some that we're pouring into, just like Paul did Timothy in 2 Timothy 2:2. Paul poured into Timothy. Then when Paul was crucified and then Timothy was moving on, leading on, sharing that gospel message, all the things he learned from Paul. Basically, Timothy became the Paul. And all these ones Timothy's pouring into, they became the Timothy and they started pouring into others. That's what's important to reach this next generation. We got Generation Z out here now in the workforce, and we've got to reach them. We are today. Those disciples are in heaven. They shared the gospel in so many places. We're Christians today because of them. But we are those disciples today. We've got to go plant seeds and reach the lost and the unconvinced. I'm convinced of that. And that's the purpose of our lives.
Yeah. Wow. Beautifully said. And the goal is to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, not well done, good, successful servant, wealthy servant, well done, good and faithful servant. We can only do that by expanding God's kingdom and his purpose on earth, by making disciples of people of all the nations. So, Mark, you are a faithful servant of Christ. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm tearing up because it's so good. It's so good. Oh, I love it.
Only
Thank
God.
you so much.
Only God.
Yes. Oh my
Ashley, give me
God.
your only God.
Oh my God. Wow. So, so good. Listen to this episode and then replay it because, guys, this is the gold. This is it. There is no other fulfillment other than seeking Christ first, period. And when you put the Lord first, all other things will be added to you. Thank you so much for the interview today, Mark Whitacre. And thank you for everyone who tuned into this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. Guys, share this message. Share this gospel with people so that they can renew their minds, their spirits, and become the leader God designed them to be. We will catch you on the next episode. Take care. If this episode resonated with you, I have one simple ask. Head over to Apple Podcast and leave a review with your favorite takeaway from today's episode. It takes less than a minute and it will help this message reach the people who need to hear it the most. If you're ready to build your brand as a thought leader, visit my company's website, bestbranding.solutions, to learn how we can work together. And if you're looking for a speaker for your next event or conference, I would love to bring this message to your audience. Book me at terralafongooch.com. Until next time, stop leading from an open wound and start leading from a healed one. Reach for what God promised before the world told you you weren't enough.